YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back, and I have an updated pre-NFL Combine 2-round mock draft. I'm going to go in-depth, pick by pick. I'll even talk about other prospects I considered for each team, each pick. So, there's a lot to go over here in the 2 rounds I predicted. We also have plenty of free agency coverage, free agency predictions on the channel. We're getting close to that. Lots of exciting stuff here at the Goat House. So check all that out. Right before we get into it, we'll talk a little bit more about this at the end. And some of you already have access to this, but if you've donated, we've had live streams in the past. We'll have some more in the future, but not just in the live stream too. There's always a link in the description for this, and some of you have been very generous and donated to the channel through that link in the description. And I want to give you guys my prospect rankings. There's a link. It's like pretty much a big database, position by position. It's constantly updated too. So some of you already have this. That's been updated. I'm sure you guys know it's been updated constantly. Always adding more players too as we get closer to the draft. So anybody that's donated or will donate in the future, I will give you that link via email. So as soon as you use that link in the description, an email should be coming to you shortly after. If you donated a significant amount, and there's some of you out there, really appreciate you. Really appreciate everyone, all the support. But I'll give you access to my big board once I make that. Any draft notes, anything like that, I want to give you guys extra stuff. So really appreciate the support. We can talk about more of this at the end, though. But yeah, and then follow it's a new Twitter because something happened with our old one, unfortunately. Mistake by Twitter, so we're looking to get that back. But the new Twitter, at GoatHouse NFL, link in the description for that. For updates, always talking the draft on there. And the fan-voted mock draft, that's right. We're doing a fan-voted mock draft. You guys vote. That's on Twitter. There'll be a link in the description straight to that. So once we get through all the teams, there'll be a video of your guys' mock draft. And there's our Instagram. There's a link in the description for that as well. But enough of all this. Let's get into the mock here. So I'm kind of back and forth, with the first pick, Nick Bosa to the Cardinals. But, most people are pretty sold on Bosa being the guy. I'm not so sold, honestly. I'm not quite there yet, because they're going to be switching to a 3-4. Nick Bosa, I think, strictly a 4-3 end. But he, there's a chance he can play 3-4 outside linebacker. We heard Vance Joseph talk about it's, defensive ends, outside linebackers, not too much of a difference. They're usually able to make the transition. So I'm confident that they'll like Bosa enough and they'll believe he can make, the switch. Shane Ray, who came from Vance Joseph's defense, couldn't really make the switch. Bosa a little better prospect than Ray, but Ray was supposed to be pretty darn good. I think he should be more of a 4-3 end, but we'll see. I think Josh Allen could fit a little better if you're looking for that edge rusher in a 3-4, but people, it sounds like majority of the NFL thinks that Bosa is the best player in the draft, so that's what I'm predicting here. The Niners take Josh Allen, then edge rusher Kentucky. They got a few guys that come around the edge there, get to the quarterback. They don't have a guy like Josh Allen, freak athlete, great for today's NFL. The athletes are winning in today's NFL. Might have something to do with the offenses being a little quicker. Quicker style offense is a little different. So the Niners will not be able to pass on Josh Allen, but Quinnen Williams definitely is an option there. For the Jets, Quinnen Williams is really the only one I consider at this point. I think these will be the first 3 guys off the board. Figuring out the order is the tough part. People think it's, pretty simple. You never know. At this point, did we think Baker would go first overall? We did not. So, but I got Quinnen Williams going to the Jets. Plug and play guy right away. Raiders, Rashawn Gary, defensive end, Michigan. I think the Raiders will like him a lot. I consider Rashawn Gary or Ed Oliver, both of them. I just think they'll like Gary a little better. The difference is, more of a pass rush out of Gary, and that's very appealing to scouts, to people in the front office. So, I want Rashawn Gary here. They're looking for pass rushers, defensive linemen, linebackers, pretty much everything on the defensive side, but they need offensive help too. Buccaneers went with Ed Oliver, D lineman Houston. They're going to be switching to a 3-4. Todd Bowles defense. I think Ed Oliver can fit in at the 3-4 end. Honestly, there's been some worries he's too small to be interior D line, like 4-3 D tackle. Well, let's put him at the 3-4 end. I think that can work out good. Similar to what Aaron Donald's doing. He's got a little of that in him, but he's not Aaron Donald, but high ceiling for Ed Oliver. Giants go Dwayne Haskins, quarterback, Ohio State. I'm kind of back and forth on this too because it would make sense to get the pieces for your future quarterback. So the only thing you need is the future quarterback. Then that way you're able to trade up in a future draft next year. We'll say when there's a better quarterback to get, but you can't really sit here and say it's guaranteed we're going to be able to even trade up or get the pick to get the quarterback. I think they'll like Haskins. The only thing that worries me about him is, if he has a below average offensive line. I don't know if he's going to deal too well with pressure. We're going to find out, though. He had pretty much all day to throw for Ohio State. I like the way he's able to move outside the pocket and throw on the run. That's very appealing to me. But if he's under constant pressure, I think he'll struggle at first. But Giants need a quarterback. It'll be fun to see Haskins in that offense. I think as of now, I think that's the pick. I think it also could be offensive line. The Jags go offensive line. They could use a quarterback, but I'm kind of predicting in this mock draft for some free agent signings to happen. And here I think they'll get a quarterback. We have plenty of free agency prediction videos on the channel predicting landing spots, so you go check those out. But the Jags, I think they'll get a starter, so they may be looking to protect him a little better. Get a guy like Juwan Taylor, who I think is the best offensive lineman in this draft currently. Slight injury here is coming up here at right before the combine, but nothing to worry about there. The Lions go T.J. Hawkinson, tight end, Iowa. Tight end that can do it all. He can block. He's very athletic, catch the ball. He can even run the ball. He can do it all. Lions kind of been missing that. They could go a couple different defensive positions here. I considered some pass rushers. I like Cleveland Farrell in their defense, but T.J. Hawkinson, a rare tight end talent, but I think by far the best one in this class, in my opinion. I've been saying that for a while too. So, the Lions have a chance to get a tight end like this. You don't really find them in free agency too much. I think you take the chance here at pick 8. Next 8 picks, I got the Bills going DK Metcalf. Believe I have that. I had that in my last mock. Freakish receiver. I think there's a couple freakish receivers here that could go at the 9th overall pick, but I think this is most likely what's going to happen here at 9. I think he's the first receiver off the board. They could go offensive line as well. That's very possible. But, a freak receiver like that, you don't see it every draft. And there's really a couple of them, which is very impressive. I think a very loaded receiver class. So the Bills would love to have Metcalf. The Broncos go Devin White, linebacker, LSU. They could still go quarterback because even though they got Flacco, it's not long term. They could still go quarterback. Drew Lock, I like as a fit. There's almost too much of, people saying that Drew Lock's a fit with the Broncos. He's going to the Broncos. There's almost too much of that at this point. Maybe smoke. I don't know who leaked that, but I do like the fit. I do like him on that team. They just trade for Flacco. Doesn't mean they won't take a quarterback, but Devin White is a Vic Fangio guy. They're not bringing Brandon Marshall back. It makes a lot of sense here. How much control does Fangio have? That's the question. If it's up to him, if he's in there, he's like, I need this Devin White guy. Fits my defense perfectly. He's my kind of guy. High motor kid. Reads plays very well. We got to get him. And does John Elway say, okay, that's good? Or is John Elway completely taking control? That's the question. Only ones I considered here was Devin White and Drew Lock. Didn't really consider the other quarterbacks. I just don't see them going that direction. They'll be great if there's some surprises, though. That's the great thing about the draft. The Bengals, I put Kyler Murray to the Bengals. I think it's realistic. It's hard to find teams that will actually take the chance at Kyler Murray. I think he's very good, but there's going to have to be a big change in everyone's offense. The Bengals, new coach in there, switching the offense possibly a little bit. I think Andy Dalton could be the guy this year still, but I think they take a chance here at Murray. It's a possibility here because they do need linebackers too. Devin White off the board, I think, increases the chances of taking the risk here on a guy like Kyler Murray. But I think they'll be happy about him in the future. New style offense. I can just see it there. There's a lot of teams I just don't see taking him because I don't see them changing up their offense, too much. The Packers, Jonah Williams, offensive lineman, Alabama, with him dropping to here. I don't know if the Packers pass on him. They always done a very good job of making sure their offensive line is to where it should be. They've always done a great job at that. They weren't terrible last year, but they didn't have the best year last year. A couple veterans getting older, and there's some injuries. And then Williams, I think he played tackle or guard. I would see him starting day one on the right side there. So the Packers, maybe not the biggest need, honestly. The biggest needs probably still on the defensive side, pass rush probably. We'll see what they do in free agency. Maybe they pull a receiver in free agency too in the offseason here. But, It would not surprise me if they just make sure that offensive line is to where it needs to be to protect Rodgers. He was hurt a couple times last year. They want to make sure it doesn't happen. A guy like Jonah Williams sitting there, I can see this happening here. Dolphins, Drew Lock falls to them. I can see them picking up a veteran quarterback in free agency, but with Drew Lock falling to 13, I think they have to take him. I like Drew Lock a lot. I think he should go higher in this, not because he's better than 13 on my big board, but he's a quarterback. Teams that overdraft quarterbacks every year. I think if you need a quarterback, I definitely consider Drew Lock. I think he really could do it all. I think he can move around. I think he can escape sacks. He can throw on the run. He has great arm strength. I think he's a very solid prospect. 14, the Falcons go Clelin Ferrell, defense end Clemson. I think too good to pass here. They could go interior D-line, maybe Christian Wilkins from Clemson too, maybe Montez Sweat, Ja'Kai Polite. Bunch of guys they can go here. Clelin Ferrell, too good to pass. I think he's more of your traditional defensive end, which the Falcons don't really have. They got guys that are they speed rushers? They could be a 3-4 outside linebacker. They could be 4-3 ends. You don't really know. I think a traditional 4-3 end here with Ferrell. The Falcons could use that. Redskins go Daniel Jones, quarterback Duke. Now, is this the pick I would make? No, it's not. I think Daniel Jones goes higher than he should. I think he can play in a pro-style offense. I also think he can play, in the new school type of offenses. He ran a very good RPO out of Duke, but, he's a pretty simple quarterback. He could be pro-ready. I don't know if he has a huge ceiling, but the Redskins, picking 15, may take a chance if a guy drops to here. But, again, I think this is too early for him, in my opinion, but this is more of a predictive pick. 16, the Panthers go Ja'Kai Polite, edge rusher in Florida. They need pass rushers bad. I expect him to go pass rusher, offensive line here. But Polite's freakish guy coming off the edge. They can play 4-3 end, which he would do here in the Panthers case. But I think he can play 3-4 outside linebacker as well. Freakish guy. Needs to work on the run game a little bit, but excellent pass rusher. So I like him here. 16th overall to the Panthers. Next group of picks, the Browns go Montez Sweat, edge rusher, Mississippi State. Browns got a bunch of young guys. They got time. They don't really need to go win a Super Bowl now, but, they're pretty good, so they can get to the playoffs. But you can afford to get a guy that has a big upside, like Montez Sweat. But Montez Sweat can play right now. He had pretty good production at Mississippi State. So I think the Browns, I do like Ugba, but I think Sweat could be the future opposite of Myles Garrett. The Vikings go with, another corner, Greedy Williams from LSU, the best corner in this draft right now. But he's not pro-ready. And you might say, how do the Vikings go another corner? They just drafted one last year. They need offensive line. Again, I'm kind of predicting the things to happen in free agency here. I think the Vikings go for a couple of free agents, offensive linemen, a few of them actually. And I think that's where they spend their money. They're also talking about moving their own guys around a little bit where they think they fit better. And the only one that could really be gone is Renner's possibly. And I do think they need another corner because, had Rhodes constantly hurt last year. Rumors that they could trade him. It's possible. I don't think it happens, but he's constantly hurt. Trey Waynes was kind of on and off hurt too. I thought Trey Waynes was pretty solid last year, but his contract's coming to an end. Mike Hughes is who they drafted last year. He had a torn ACL, so what's going to go on with him? Greedy Williams, a little different style corner too. Holton Hill, the undrafted guy, looked pretty solid, but you're kind of running out of options here. Mackenzie Alexander plays in the slot. They actually had Jerron Kearse, who's a safety, filling in at corner last year a lot because of the injuries. And then keep in mind, Trey Waynes is going to be a free agent. Keep in mind, Rhodes could be traded. I don't think it happens. But the main reason is Greedy Williams is going to be a Mike Zimmer type of guy. He's the best corner in this draft class because of what he's capable of. He's a freak talent. He's not pro ready though. He needs to brush up on his technique. He needs to be coached. And Mike Zimmer, if I'm thinking DB guru, Mike Zimmer pops my mind. So he'll love to work with the guy like Greedy Williams. So if he's sitting here at 18, I can just see it happening. A lot of Vikings fans may be like, really another corner, but I think they know how to draft. They just got to get the offensive line sorted out, which I think happens in free agency. Titans take Brian Burns, edge rusher, Florida State. Brian Burns, the guy, his tape looks like he's way better than 19th overall, but a little undersized. For him being undersized, you would expect him to be more of a freak athlete, good athlete, but some teams may scratch him off the board, but I think the Titans will like him. I think they like Harold Landry. They like Brian Burns. That could be the duo edge rushers for the future. Steelers go Devin Bush, linebacker, Michigan. Another high motor linebacker, knows how to read plays, gets on the backfield. Flies around the field, very rangy. The Steelers need a guy like that. Seahawks go Christian Wilkins, D-tackle Clemson. Too good to pass at this point at 21. They also need interior D-line. 22, the Ravens go N'Keal Harry, wide receiver, Arizona State. I love N'Keal Harry. He can do it all. Don't see receivers like this every draft. And, the Ravens definitely need a guy like this. Just saw a little bit ago they're planning on releasing Michael Crabtree here, which is the right move. They need more receivers in there. Harry's going to be an excellent pro, I think. I'm higher on him than most. It looks like I'm not getting enough talk right now. Let's see what he does at the Combine. Looking forward to that. Texans go Cody Ford, offensive lineman, Oklahoma. Was surprised I still had him on the board here. Definitely too good to pass, and their biggest need. I think you play right tackle or either guard spot right away. The Raiders go Marquise Brown, receiver, Oklahoma. They can go many different things here. They got the edge rusher with their first pick. They go receiver. They can go running back. They can go interior D-line. They can go linebacker. They can go defensive back. They got a bunch of picks because they need all that, so it's a good thing. Marquise Brown can play slot, can play outside, could pretty much run any route. Unfortunately, he's currently hurt, so won't be able to do anything at the Combine there. So that's, will that hurt his draft stock? Maybe a little. I don't think it's going to drop him out. I don't think where everybody had him graded. We don't know where everybody had him graded. Maybe they had him early second already. So I don't think he drops from his current spot too much, maybe a few picks. I don't think he drops around because of current injury. I think he'll be okay. But, he was hurt their last game against Alabama there, and, it did show. He had a pretty poor game, honestly. So going back and watching that, it was tough to watch, honestly. But he's capable of doing so many things there on the field at the receiver position. He's not just one position. There's multiple different positions for receivers. And, I think he can do it all. So I think a team like the Raiders would like to have him. Next 8 picks, I got the Eagles taking Joejuan Williams, cornerback, Vanderbilt. Corner that's on the rise for me. I think he'll be on the rise for NFL teams as well. Why? Because, he's lengthy. He's got the size, and teams like that already. You told me enough. I want to work with this guy. But I also think he's pro-ready. Usually those guys need to be worked with. They're not ready. I think he's ready. He can play man. He can play zone. He hasn't really shown me any weaknesses. Excellent tape. So I think the Eagles will like him. I think they like Sidney Jones for a reason. I saw similar things on tape from Sidney Jones back then, who I liked a lot before he got hurt. And there is a Washington corner that could be picked here. Maybe some would compare to Sidney Jones. I think Williams is a better comparison there. I think the Eagles will like him. I think they'll like him a lot. The Colts go A.J. Brown, receiver, Ole Miss. Another receiver that can do everything. I think it's a safe pick. I don't think a guy like this is going to be a bust because he can play slot, can play outside. He's shifty. He can move. He's excellent after the catch. So I don't really see a huge risk with a guy like A.J. Brown. I think the Colts will like him a lot. Raiders go Mac Wilson, linebacker, Alabama. Another need. They got quite a few of them. Mac Wilson, another solid linebacker, and fly to the ball. Chargers go Dexter Lawrence, D-tackle, Clemson. They need defense tackles pretty bad. They could use linebackers as well. Honestly, if it's up to me, I'm going to go for a little more athletic defense tackle. I like Dexter Lawrence, but I'm going to go for a little more athletic guy. I think they need a guy right in front of where Melvin Ingram's at, because they got left side, they got Joey Bosa at the end spot, and then Ingram on the opposite side. Sometimes he's on the line, sometimes he's off the ball. So it's almost like they call it a Leo defense. It's almost like a 4-3 and a 3-4, split on each side. Usually teams in the 3-4, the guy that's off the ball, who is Melvin Ingram in this case, the end in front of them is, a little more athletic than what they've had in there. But they basically run a 4-3. They've had a, more of a D tackle in there. I think they need to get a more athletic guy that can get to the quarterback. That's my opinion. I don't think they do that because they haven't really been doing that. But Dexter Lawrence is a very good talent. Can stop the run at a high level. Chiefs go Byron Murphy, corner, Washington. There's some rumors that he could be climbing upwards because he put on some size. I'm curious to what his speed's like. He put on a little weight there, so we'll see. But I still think he goes first round. I don't know if he climbs up the board. That's the rumors, but I think this is more his range. I think Joejuan Williams has a chance of climbing up. I think he's the corner on the move because pro-ready, and he has, the size, the athleticism. So gonna be interesting to see how these corners come off the board. Packers go Taylor Rapp, safety from Washington. My opinion, the best safety in the draft because he can do it all. People talk about he's more of a box guy. I disagree. I think he can come up into the box. I think he's a safety. I've seen him play very deep, like almost too deep sometimes, kind of center field. I've seen him, come up in the box. But I think when he comes up in the box, I think it's because, and this is why he's my favorite safety, one of my favorite players in this draft, actually. He comes up in the box because I think he knows the play. And he does. He recognizes the play maybe more than anybody in this draft class. And that's something you could argue that it could be coached. You can have a coach sit down players and, teach them film, how to pick things up. That's true, but I think there's players that actually recognize it on the field. You don't have long. You line up, offense comes out of the huddle. How long do you have to figure out what the play is? And Taylor Rapp's just got that. Some guys just got it, and it's rare, and Rapp's got that. Very impressive guy. The Rams go Dalton Reiser, offensive lineman, Kansas State. Maybe too good to pass at this point, and the Rams are good at making sure their offensive line, is up to where it needs to be. We talk about that with the Packers too. And the Rams, they got a very good offensive line right now. They don't really necessarily need guys right now unless they lose Saffold in free agency. But, it's more of a veteran, an older offensive line. So, injuries could start to happen. Guys can retire soon. So you got to make sure it's with the other young talent this team has so they can compete. And the Rams know that. So I think if a guy like this is sitting here, don't think they hesitate. Patriots take Calvin Harmon with the last pick in the first round, receiver, NC State. Great route runner, great down the sideline. I did think, after watching him a few times, I think he gets away with a little bit of push-off, so we'll see if he gets called for that. The receivers usually don't. It's usually the corners that get called more going from college to the NFL, so he'll be fine. But another safe prospect, I think. I think he can run routes, he can get open, he can catch. The guys that end up being busts are most of the time guys that can't run routes or have trouble, consistently catching the ball. So I think Harmon will be a safe pick. Maybe won't wow real early in his career, but, it reminds me of Michael Thomas, actually at the time when Michael Thomas was coming out. You had a bunch, I think I've talked about this before too, you had a bunch of receivers that wowed in these categories or were pretty poor in these categories, and you had Michael Thomas. He did everything very well, didn't really wow in any category, didn't really have any weaknesses. Same build to him too. Calvin Harmon reminds me of Michael Thomas. He's not going to be Michael Thomas, I'm saying, as potentially can be. Just reminds me of it. So I think he's a safe first-round pick, but doesn't really wow me all that much, but doesn't mean he won't. And to make sure I'm clear, Michael Thomas wows me in the NFL now, so that wasn't my point there. But Calvin Harmon has the potential. We're on to the second round. Take a look at the top here. I got Andre Dillard still to the Cardinals. I like that fit. They're not really able to take an offensive lineman with the first pick because they have the first pick unless they trade back. So they'll get a guy that fits, athletic offensive tackle here to help them out. Colts take DeAndre Baker, too good to pass here. I believe I had this last time too. The Colts can use a corner. Baker, I think, slides a little bit. I like Baker a lot. I think he slides a little bit though because, not the most athletic guy. We'll see at the combine. Can't wait. But I think he's more of a zone guy because I don't think he's going to chase somebody across the field. But the way he plays, the way he's physical, it's almost like he should be a man guy because he can press too, but he can't really follow a guy. We seen a man on Marquise Brown that didn't really go too well, but he doesn't give up touchdowns too, so he's more of a lockdown guy. I like Baker. Think he can drop for those reasons. Teams looking for the more athletic guy these days. The Raiders, I got them going Jerry Tillery, so they get a guy that can play more interior D-line here, and a guy that can get after the quarterback as well. Niners, a receiver, they go Deebo Samuel, wide receiver, South Carolina. I think another safe prospect because he can get open, he can run routes, doesn't have the best routes, like elite routes, but can run routes, can get open, can catch anywhere on the field. So I think he's a safe receiver here. I don't see him being a bust. The Giants go Yannick Juice, offensive lineman, West Virginia, athletic offensive tackle. I think he can possibly play guard too. I think they play him on the right side if they get him. The Jags go Akeem Butler, wide receiver, Iowa State. That's what the Jags are missing. This big receiver. And Butler he's more than just a big receiver too. I think he can do a lot. Quickness could be an issue, but I think speed's okay. We'll see what he'll run at the combine. I think the Jags are missing, though. Somebody like this, I think the Jags, like I said, I'm predicting them to get a quarterback in free agency. I'm predicting them to get Nick Foles. I'll say it. That's pretty obvious. But and I think Butler could be the Alshon Jeffrey for Nick Foles. I think it's a possibility. Bucks go Josh Jacobs, running back, Alabama. starting to think, I'm kind of back and forth with Josh Jacobs. He could slide a little bit. There's some people that think he could go in the top part of the first round. Some people that are just like, no, he's a first-round lock. I think he can slide. I think there's other running backs not far off. Teams realize that. Teams realize that you can get a very good running back in even the third round lately. You can get one undrafted. So teams will realize that. They'll wait a little bit. Bucks just took Ronald Jones in the second round last year. So do they risk it again this year? I think too good to pass at 39. A guy that can really do it all. Good-sized guy, too. Curious to see what he runs at the combine. I forgot to mention in the first round, I actually thought about the Bucks taking a quarterback. I think it's possible they look at Kyler Murray. Not enough people are talking about that. I wish I mentioned that when we got to the Bucks in the first place. I think Bruce Arians considers that. It's something to look out for. Because Winston, with his off the field issues, most likely he's their guy. They won't draft one, but it's something to look out for. The Bills go Greg Little, so they get their top two needs, first two rounds here, receiver and offensive line. Next 8 picks, Broncos go Trayvon Mullen, corner Clemson. So they're building up that Vic Fangio defense. They got the linebacker, and they're going to get a corner that he could like. Mullen's pretty impressive. A guy that can sneak in the first round. He's good. He's good in man. He's good in zone. Everything. Quick. Great reaction to the ball. So I think the Broncos will like him. The Bengals go Trey Lamar, linebacker Clemson. 2 Clemson guys in a row. I think, they need a linebacker, like I said, and they weren't able to get one in the first, so I think they'll try to look for one here. Lions could use a corner. They go Julian Love, corner from Notre Dame. Tough to figure out where Love will play. Some people think he'll play in the slot. Some think outside. He's not the best on deep balls. He's not. He could use a little work. So that may tell you. And he's very quick. Always close to the receivers. So that all might tell you slot. But I think he's very good on the sideline. And very impressive on tape. When the ball's on the sideline, whether it's 5 yards, 10 yards, 20 yards. Not the best when he's following somebody deep towards the middle of the field. But it's tough to decide because if he's playing in the slot, he won't really have that sideline action. It's tough to decide where he'll play, but we know he can play, so that's the good thing. Lions could use another guy opposite of Darius Slay. Packers get their pass rusher here and Christian Miller from Alabama. Not a whole bunch of experience playing that 3-4 outside linebacker spot, but for the lack of experience, he was pretty darn good. He can work on his technique. Inside moves can be a little better, but he can figure this out with the right coaching, and he can be very impressive. Falcons go Noah Fant, tight end, Iowa. I think they've been lacking, in this offense, a very athletic tight end, and I think you get one here. I'm not a huge fan of Hooper, but, he can block, he can do other things. Fant, more of an athletic guy you can put in the slot, guy you can put out wide. They can have some fun with this. This offense can be scary with a guy like Noah Fant. The Redskins go Jonathan Abrams, safety from Mississippi State. I think he's more of a box guy. Like, he'll actually play in the box a lot. Very good at stopping a run, very good at, reading plays. Sounds like another linebacker, but he can cover downfield as well. A guy that can definitely sneak in the first round. Very exciting tape. It's just, in the big games that I watched so far, that he's just mainly stuck in the box, which isn't a negative, but are teams that need a true safety, like, gonna come up and get this guy? Like, that's the question. That's the question here. But the Redskins, they need a true safety. They need pretty much anything over there. But I think it's similar to DJ Swearinger, actually. Swearinger played back a little bit more. But I think, flying around the ball, reminds me a little bit. And, I think the Redskins like Swearinger, but, some kind of issues there, so they cut him. So we'll see, but I think they'll like Abrams. The Panthers go Garrett Bradbury, offensive lineman at NC State. I think he plays center right away for him. I think it's a good fit. And they definitely can use a center or a couple of linemen, honestly. The Dolphins go Charles Omenihu, defensive lineman, Texas. I think Brian Flores will like this guy. I think he'll play D-tackle in their 4-3. I think he'll play 3-4 end as well. I got the Browns taking Riley Ridley, wide receiver, Georgia. I wasn't super high on Riley Ridley before. A guy that doesn't really wow, on tape, doesn't have a lot of yards, a lot of really reps over the years compared to some of the other guys, but something I've noticed when I'm watching the other corners, like the top corners, he did very well against them. Maybe he didn't have a whole bunch of yards, but I think in the NFL, I think he steps it up. I think he does better. Corners that tried to press Riley Ridley, they had a tough time, and that was very impressive because that's something, receivers struggle at going in the NFL, getting off these presses. So strong receiver. I like his upside in the NFL. I think the Browns could use a guy like that too. The Vikings go Chris Lindstrom, offensive lineman from Boston College. Yeah, like I said, they could most likely build up this offensive line through free agency. But then they play it safe here. They have injuries. They need guys for the future still. They hit on Brian O'Neill in the second round, and Lindstrom probably too good to pass, potential first rounder even. Yeah, and they grab him here. The Titans go Draymond Jones, defense lineman, Ohio State. Could be a variable guy. Then they can move him around a little bit. Think he can play 3-4 end, very athletic, knows how to get to the quarterback. Steelers go Deontay Thompson, safety, Alabama. Yeah, I have him dropping a little bit here. Recent news coming out that he's injured, but that's part of it. But I put on the tape from Deontay Thompson, and I think he's a little on the overrated side, if I'm being honest. I wasn't super impressed. He's very good when the ball's in the air and it's deep, or he's got to go across. He's pretty rangy when the ball's in the air too. Just any kind of run support, I was not really impressed. Any kind of angles, doesn't really. I don't want to say doesn't want to tackle, but I don't know if he really looks forward to it, if I'm being honest. So I wasn't really impressed with his tape. I liked him earlier in the year once he played better competition. Didn't like him as much, but very good when the ball's in the air. I guess that's a big part of it. But with the injury, some other things he needs to work on. I don't know if teams will, be super high on him. So I think it's a chance he drops. The injury possibly. The Eagles go Jalen Ferguson, edge rusher from LA Tech, a guy that's not going to be able to participate at the combine. Shouldn't be too much of a problem though. Record breaker in the NCAA for sacks, but Eagles definitely could use another guy too. They got Derek Barnett for the future. Brandon Graham's a free agent. They drafted Sweat last year. He got hurt, and then Barnett was hurt last year too. So they definitely need another guy in there. Big reason they won a Super Bowl is because the pass rush is pretty good. They got to get back to that. Texans with 2 picks in a row. They go Nasir Adderley, safety from Delaware. I like him at safety. I think he most likely will and should play safety, but they were working him out Senior Bowl at corner. I think maybe because he's a little undersized. Maybe they want him in the box slot corner possibly. He's a playmaker. Play him at safety. Could potentially go higher in this too because he's or earlier in this I should say because he's a playmaker. Didn't play the best competition at Delaware though, but shouldn't be too much of a problem. Texans go O'Shane Zimenez, edge rusher from Old Dominion. I think another sleeper guy. I think he can play in a 4-3 or 3-4. Freakish guy. Playing at Old Dominion too. Give him some NFL work, with the coaches, and I think he can be something special. Patriots go Ryan Finley, quarterback, NC State. I think another sleeper. I think a very solid quarterback, very accurate quarterback, very smart. For some reason, the last few years, I had this weird feeling that he'd end up on the Patriots, so I'm kind of sticking to that. I guess a little bit of a bold prediction because, it's one guy out of 32 teams I'm predicting here, but it just had a feeling I had, so we'll see if it happens. Last 8 picks, the Eagles go David Montgomery, running back, Iowa State. They definitely need a starting running back. Don't know if, they're not big fans of drafting them super early, but definitely a hole at their team right now. So I think they'll like a guy like Montgomery. I think they'll like a lot of these running backs that are going in this range, but Montgomery makes sense here. Cowboys go Irv Smith Jr., tight end, Alabama. Love the fit. Too good to pass at this point. I think it's realistic that he drops here, though. Colts go Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I think he plays in the box for them. Maybe a slot guy. I think he play corner or safety, but yeah, I think another playmaker guy, kind of all over the field. So I think the Colts will like him in the slot. Chargers go Tavon Coney. Like I said, they need D tackles. They need linebackers. They grab D tackle early. They grab the linebacker now. Coney, I think another overrated guy. Not getting a lot of talk. He flies around the field. Maybe not the most athletic guy, but I think he's very good. Very instinctive football player. Not going to miss tackles. Can fly around the ball. See him cover running backs. Running out of the backfield very well. And the Chiefs take a risk on Jeffrey Simmons here. Why? Because this is a Super Bowl team right now. I think they'll build up, the defensive holes in free agency. They grabbed a defensive back in the first round in this mock draft. They have guys that can play the position, but I think it's worth the risk here because, like I said, the Super Bowl team got 2 picks right here, another one coming up. I think it's worth the risk. I think Simmons is the guy that can play nose. I think they can slide him out too. Can play multiple spots. You could potentially go earlier in this because he is a top talent in this draft, but ACL tear is going to scare some teams. Teams we see the impact that these rookies are making, helping teams win a Super Bowl, helping teams winning playoff games, getting to the playoffs. So they want that guy that's going to make an instant impact. Him recently tearing his ACL is going to scare the hell out of some teams. I don't know if he gets by this point. I think the Chiefs can take a chance on him if this scenario happens here. Saints go Elijah Holyfield, running back Georgia. Maybe not their biggest need, but they also don't have a bunch of huge needs. Pretty, I think, balanced team at the same time having some top-tier talent. So the Saints are ready to compete now. They like a 1-2 punch there at running back. Ingram's a free agent. Holyfield is your Ingram. He's more athletic at this point, too, in Ingram's career. Holyfield's definitely more athletic, So Kamara's going to be the guy, but maybe they get Ingram back. But they like having two. I think they'll really like Holyfield for that situation there. Chiefs go Devin Singletary, running back FAU. I think he just fits this offense perfectly. I know he's maybe a little similar to Damian Williams, but Singletary could be part of the future plans there. And Damian Williams was very impressive, but and they could still use both. It's what they want to do. You don't want to go get a running back. It could make sense to get running back a little different, a short yardage guy, but they do so much of this fast offense, a lot of slip screens. They master the slip screens, and Singletary just fits perfect for that. Just having two of these guys and this guy for the long-term future just makes a lot of sense to me. And the Patriots go with LJ Collier, defense MTCU. Huge upside here. I think he's a guy that have a better pro career than he was in college, and he was pretty solid in college. Patriots need a pass rusher. I think he's a Patriots type of guy, too. I think they'll like him, want to work with him. Even if they get Trey Flowers back, I think they can use a guy like Collier. So that is my 2-round mock drafts. Eventually, we'll get to 3 rounds possibly. We're going to have very close to happening. We're going to have 7-round mocks team by team. It's going to take a little bit to get through all the teams. We're going to go in draft order, but 7-round mocks for all the teams. It's going to be a lot of fun. It was fun last year. So stay tuned for that. Lots of free agency predictions. And we're doing the fan voted mock draft. Like I said, link in the description. Go to our Twitter. Follow our Twitter. We have polls on there. You guys vote, and once it's all voted through, so that's going to take a little bit too. Once it's all the first-round picks are voted, we will have a reveal video just like this, but it's with your guys' picks, and I'll break them down, see if I agree or not. Did that last year too. It was a lot of fun. Again, anybody that donated and you didn't get this email yet, I need your email. Please comment in this video if you want. I'll know if you donated by your username, but I just need your email or your Twitter handle. I can tweet. I can tweet there. I can DM you that too. But anybody that plans on donating, that link in the description, you will get the email shortly after. Constantly updating my prospect rankings, constantly working on it, constantly added players. So much appreciated anybody there. Everyone's support, much appreciated. 20K is our subscriber goal. If you don't subscribe to this channel, we got a lot of sports content, a lot of NFL. During the season, we do predictions. And then, as you see in the offseason, we do mock drafts, NFL coverage, break down some tape here and there. And free agency predictions, rumors. We have live streams. So please subscribe. Lots going on here at the Goat House. And clicking the like button on any video, we much appreciate as well. But that's going to do it for this one. Thank you, everyone, for your support. It's been unreal lately. And again, follow our Twitter. We got a new Twitter because something happened with the old one. Don't really want to get into that. But want to get the following back up. We're going to be talking a lot during the Combine on that. So go check us out. Much appreciated. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.